YouTube, it's Brian Phillips back again, part 3 on the Phoenix Evolution, in my case 2.6 meter version. You can build this as a 1.6 or a 2 meter, just leave out the middle section if you want to make it short. So where we left off, we were just getting the radio set up. Elevator, rudder, getting those things centered. I did just a little bit more refining off camera to get that level. Mechanically, I just undid this control horn and spun it out a couple turns or whatever it took. So what's next for us, and we also got the braking turned on. So what's next for us is going to be to very likely get the wing on, but let's see what the instructions say. Okay, yeah. So they're saying to go ahead and put the middle section in, and they're suggesting that all the wings get clipped together, and then there's some little clips that go between the seams. That must be those fancy things that were right here. So whatever these things are, and of course we're going to have to put these things on. And we never did actually organize what those screws were going to do. There's 4 shorter ones and 4 longer ones, and then there's a bunch that were designed for control horns, so we know what these are. And then we have a bunch more screws over here and I'm beginning to think, oh goodness gracious, there's a lot of screws left. So that's kind of a demoralizing thing to see. So at this point we're going to have to eventually get the control horns onto the wing. Let's see if it even shows us where to do that. Here's the center of gravity, guys. 70 plus or minus 5 millimeters, or 75 plus or minus 5 millimeters, depending on which wing. Okay, so they never tell us to do it, so that's what we're going to do next. We're going to go ahead and get the control arms installed. You know what? We're going to hold off on that. You know why? Because we can then have everything attached to the receiver, which is going to allow us the capacity to have these centered. So we'll come back to that. So as you can see, there's all these rods too. They don't really make it super clear in the manual here. It looks like there's 2 that go into each wing here. So there must be a long one and a short one on each of the sections here. So we're just going to have to, okay, it looks like there's a small one and a slightly bigger one. So I have to assume the smaller one goes in there. And then the larger one, of course, is going to go into the alternative hole. So we'll slip that in there. Talk about a robust wing. Jeez, look at that thing. Goodness gracious, guys. That's crazy. I really like that. That's awesome. Okay, so the bigger one's going to go in the bigger hole. And then the smaller one, again, in the smaller hole, which seems pretty simple. So as usual, we'll just go ahead and throw that over there where it belongs, with the other Chinese instructions, which incidentally, here quick tip guys, if you have millions of instruction manuals, let's turn some lights on, you can put them in a box like this. It works very nice, and then every time you get a new plane, you can quickly rotate to a hidden box so your wife doesn't see it, but she might notice them on the ceiling. I wonder, when she walks in the shop, you might have to have her look down or something. So anyway, maybe that plan isn't so good after all. These are labeled Channel 1, Channel 5, Channel 1, Channel 5. I have no clue what that means. I'm sure that, well, the other thing is like they're not laid flat totally, which is a little bit annoying, but not the end of the world. That's pretty easy to fix. They just got some mucilage looking glue in here. It's supposed to hold that flat. I'm going to have to peel that up. So basically the idea is we're going to have a shared signal for our servos here. Notice that they're both coming out that side. That means that the output will be the same. Whereas with the ailerons, okay, if you look at the ailerons, they're going to be opposite one another, okay? And so that means that when you give the same signal to both sides, they're going to operate in opposite conditions, except in our case, we're not going to use a Y splitter. We're going to have two different channels. And so we can use these as flaperons and spoilerons. Now flaperons, if you don't know already, okay, imagine this is a wing, and you were using this with just a 1600 millimeter, flaperons, they would both go down and act as an inboard / outboard flap. But then they also operate as ailerons. So if they're both down like this, then you can still give some input and still change the condition of the aileron position. In this case, flaperons. Spoilerons, they do the opposite. They go up like a spoiler together, and then as you give input, they respond accordingly, just like an aileron. So what we do when we're using Crow, at least in my receiver configuration, is I set up this as one channel. It's the flap channel. And I set these up as two channels separate. And then I can say spoilerons, flaps, and then I use the spoilers to continue to control roll authority. And I generally mix in a little bit extra rudder, because as you may be aware, the rudder will typically roll the aircraft. As a side effect, as it's supposed to be yawing the plane, there's an aerodynamic difference in this wing because it slows down, and that wing because it speeds up, so you roll the plane. And then there's also some torsion effect that happens from that mechanical action as well. So anyway, that's the quick overview of what we're going to be doing here. So let's go ahead and get to work. And just noticing that this servo wire doesn't want to fall down. Probably not worth fighting too much on, but it would sure be nice if I get the thing flat, because it's going to look bad, and I don't think it's really going to damage anything, so I'm just going to push hard and just give it somewhere to go. That's all. And then I'm going to, this is just electrical tape, it looks like, just vinyl tape, so we'll just push that back down. Now that tape will be the first tape to come off as well, so we'll be watching for it. Okay, so now on the rest of the wings, of course we've got this wing upside down, so we'll go ahead and figure out which side this is. So it's obviously this side. Go ahead and slip this on. And we'll go ahead and get this one in. Now 2.6 meters is still pretty small in the sailplane world, but it's big compared to most of your, planes that you might fly at the park. And compared to a 1.2 meter, it's huge. And it's very striking when you're not used to having those bigger planes. It makes a big difference in the way they fly. Oh, I hate that when they bite into this carbon fiber. Okay, cool. So now these wings aren't held together very good yet, so we'll go ahead and get those little clips in there. And we might go ahead and just, for now, we might just switch things around a little so we don't damage this as we're working. You can see I've got some batteries over here. Those are the different battery choices I'm going to kind of try to work out. I've got a 2200 3S 60C. I got a 1500 milliamp 3S 40C, a 1300 milliamp, that's the one with the label to your back, and then a 1200 milliamp. Those are both 3Cs, or excuse me, both 3S. This just happens to park in this container. I don't plan to use it, but maybe on a day when you were thermaling, you could get away with a real small pack. Bearing in mind that you're likely to destroy it, because you'll puff that sort of a pack. It's just not got enough capacity to drive the motor long enough to even hardly get you up in the air once, in my opinion. Could be wrong. That's just for testing. We're not planning on using that as a flight pack. This wing is very strong, guys. Really happy with the strength of the wing. Jeez, look at this. Look, there's a carbon fiber spar. And then when the spar ends, or excuse me, that's not carbon fiber, that's aluminum. There's aluminum box and then there's a piece of balsa, or what is that, basswood or plywood, that continues onward. That is really, really robust. Look at this, guys. That is so cool. Okay, enough of that. Today it's happened, guys. This doesn't usually happen, but we have a rare flying opportunity. The weather's been crap lately. It's kind of springtime, and springtime in central Iowa, it's very windy. And it's pretty much windy all the time. And so you have to take your opportunities, and I made the miscalculation of assuming the wintry, crappy weather would continue to be winter and crappy. And it is still crappy, but it's flyable crappy. Okay, so that is more than a little bit awkward. I don't know if I want that much spare cable. I'm not sure exactly what the best approach would be for dealing with that. I'm assuming I'll probably have to peel this off and go ahead and tape it down. Now, this plane has a pretty big wing, as you can see here. It's so big. Hold on, let's just show you in my shop. I gotta walk back because it's so stinking huge. And because of the way it divides, I'm not sure how I'm going to take it apart yet to get it in the car. This 2.6 meter plane has a significantly smaller wing. Even though it's the same wingspan, it's a lot less chord, and it's a lot less big. So, that thing looks great. Tons of static electricity every time I pick it up because of the foam. Alright, so we're going to get back to work. We're going to put these little clip deals in here. And these are the clip deals I'm talking about. Okay, so it looks like these ones have a pretty steep angle on them. So they're going to obviously go there. And then these ones seem to have a bit of a shallow angle on them. So they must go here. Okay, so I bet these take the long screws and those take the short screws, I have to imagine. Except we've got all these different screws. These 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a little bit disconcerting because I'm not sure what to do with these screws. I don't think the instructions said either. This is a little bit of a bummer. We're going to see if we can figure this out. Now there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws here. So for sure, you can see there's a nut zert in here. 1, 2, 3, 4 screws. It looks like these are actually holding an assembly in there that's going to hold the wing down. Oh man, this is where having good instructions helps. That's why you guys have me, because I will screw it up first so you can copy along. Like what I did with the rudder in part 1/2. They do not tell, and they don't tell there either. That's super fantastic. And they don't tell there. Phenomenal. Okay, well, I guess it's time for us to start our favorite game. Guess where the screw goes? Not real excited about that game. It's more fun when it's somebody else is playing, like Esteban's. Just kidding. Just kidding, Esteban, if you're watching. So we have these. That's definitely it for the outboard. This is definitely it for the middle. So these are going to definitely be for this piece. It's got to be. Let's test my theory. I'm sorry guys, this should be easy, and as usual it's not quite as easy as you want it to be. So we have 3 long screws and then 3 short screws, which further complicates things. Then we also have all of these screws, which is like, what are all these screws for now? It's like they threw in a bag of screws just to confuse everybody. Like, here, charity screws. I'm just looking to see if these ones will even be close. Like, those seem too big there, so it's not those. These might, however, I don't know. That could be. That might be what's going on there. Would you look at that, guys? That's totally it. Okay, so these weird funky looking ones, there's also these. This is annoying. Come on, Volantex. I'd say you know better, but you don't. Okay, we at least can figure out the count. So we have 4 here, 5. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What the heck? Guys, you're killing me. What one goes where? I have no clue. These ones are long. And then there's this ambiguous one here that would normally go, if you had the 16 millimeters or 1600 millimeters together, they would be the same as this. So I think this is going to go there and there respectively. Oh, those are long though. There's no way that's it. That can't be it, guys. That's got to be the other way around. I bet the short ones go in the middle. Okay, so if the short ones go in the middle, okay, let's figure out which way this goes, because we're just trying to figure this out right now. We're not necessarily just trying to build it. Okay, so, yep, you see we have a bulkhead that we're going to need to agree with here. So this is going to go like this. Here, I'll see. Okay, so we need this to go forward. And once this is forward, then those are going to slide in there, just like so. Alright, and then we're going to take the short screws. Remember, the long screws are going to go through from the top. The short screws are going to go through from the bottom. And we're going to see if these things thread in here worth of crap. They feel like they're going to work. Okay, it's drill time, baby. Number 2. Number 1. I normally don't use a drill, but these screws are going to take forever to thread in otherwise. Oh, buddy. Yep. Those are too long. Son of a gun. So what the heck? So those ones aren't it. Volantex, you really left me high and dry here. I may have to sit and figure this out for a minute, guys. I'm going to pause it and I'll come right back and tell you what I figured out. Alright guys, I figured it out. I just wanted to show you this awesome screw I got. Look at this. It's super high quality. We've got 3 threads left. Look at this. How do you even get a screw like this? That's the same type of screw. This is my spare screw for this here. Okay, so I figured it out though. I mean, it was a spare. And I figured out part of the reason this is so confusing is they give you some spares, but not necessarily an equal amount. Okay, so these are the long ones, and these are the short ones for the wing section joiners. These are the ones that are going to go here, okay? So they're going to hold this mechanism that holds the wings together, regardless of this or this, okay? Because this middle section can come out, okay? So these are going to go in here. Let's throw those in real quick, and then I'll show you the rest of them. Okay, so, yep. Okay, so I'm putting a light pressure on there. I don't want to strip the screws, and I don't want to protrude through the other side either. Okay, so now I'm going to switch to a number 1. Okay, so it won't even bite, which is what I expected. So now we can tighten that down with the provided screwdriver, or if you have a smaller screwdriver, you can get in there with it. Perfect. Okay, so that worked great, and that holds this piece on. Okay, so notice that these are short and that these are tall. Look how much thicker it is. Okay, and so much thicker and thinner. Alright, so now we'll just go ahead and flip the wing over. So now that we have the wing over, we already talked about these two plastic pieces. We had that right. So there's this one that goes on the front and this one that goes on the back. These are longer and these are shorter, okay, because you have a longer gap to reach. So the shorter ones, you had one spare. The longer ones, I had two spares. I think you're supposed to have two spares on each. Not a big deal. Then these long machine screws were pretty obviously going to be for joining the wing, but I couldn't figure out, because there was 3 of them, how that was going to work out. That was before I realized that there was such a significant difference in height on front and back. So we're left with a spare screw on the front and a spare screw on the back. So these 2 screws were spares, along with this really messed up one was a spare. I'm sure they didn't mean to give me a messed up one, but it's still hilarious. It looks like a nail. One more shot, guys. This is just ridiculous. Like, how do you get this? How does a quality department send this out? Anyway, that's because they don't have quality departments. And then we've got the longer and the shorter. It's supposed to be 2 of this. Not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. I can forgive them for that. Although it would have been nice to have a drawing that substantiated all these truth claims that I'm having to make now, without any verification whatsoever. Okay, so these go in there like that. There's a groove, and I think it's pretty evident that the screws go in from the top because there's more material to bite down on the bottom. Now that is a bit of a guess on my part. We're going to find out right now. I'm going to put my number 2 bit back in. Whoa. Whoa. There we go. And all this is going to do is just hold these 2 sections square, because obviously what's really holding them is the carbon fiber rod. Zzz. Oh yeah, that worked great. That worked really good, actually. You know, and on the big dogs, they just tape them together too. So I may end up doing that. I may put a piece of clear tape over it, because I don't intend to take this wing in half. Okay, so you got the slope of the leading edge of the wing, but I don't like the aerodynamic effect that's going to have. Okay, so going real slow on that. Don't want to overdo it. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Guys, it doesn't feel like it's biting at all. That makes me very nervous. I need those to actually make contact and bite. Oh no, but they're not. That means that I'm missing something here. Son of a gun. Alright, I gotta figure it out, and I'll come right back and tell you what I figured out. I'll get everything put together that I can, and then we'll figure those out. Alright guys, so I did end up getting this side to go, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. If you squish those things up there, they'll bite. But I hate the way it worked. So I am going to use, instead of this provided screw, I'm just going to use these screws that I found in my spare screws, okay? They're finer thread, which means you're going to get a better bite, but they're a little bit too long. And too long is alright, because we can shorten them a little bit, okay? I do not like compressing the styrofoam so much, because you're going to weaken it if you compress it as much as they're wanting you to. So these things work really nice. And I've got plenty of extra thread to get in there and make my adjustments as needed. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to flip this over, and then I'm just going to take note of how much longer they are, and I'll have to shorten them, which means I'll have to take them out. You need to have a little bit extra material so you can get down there and get them started. So I'm just going to take and mark the side of it where I think I want to cut. Okay, so I'm going to do that on all 4 of the what would have been the longer screws. These are actually held in, but you can see how much compression there is. I do not like that. So basically the way you find your spare screw, of course, is you're going to be concerned with the outside diameter of this screw. And obviously in your case you've got your spare junk screws organized in a different way if you have them. If you don't have them, you're going to have to make a trip to the hardware store, which is not very cool. Not at all. Okay, so I got plenty of those. Try to keep them all Phillips, or if you redo them all so they're the same. And that way it's easier for you to figure out when you go to put this thing back together if you decide to take yours apart to take it to the field. So as you can see, the back ones went in just fine. No issues at all there. So we'll go ahead and pick this back up after I get these things. Well, we'll shorten the first set, and we'll just show you that these work as well. Okay, so these ones here are biting, so the way I did is I just pushed really hard while I was drilling, and then it eventually bit, but you're getting like maybe at most 1 or 2 threads. See, this one's just spinning. So that's just not acceptable. Not on the leading edge of the wing, guys. So I'll show you how nice this works comparatively. Because it just has to reach too far to get down to the bottom half of the plastic. And for that reason you get a very poor bite. And if you do get a bite, you have to compress the foam so much that it's going to have an aerodynamic effect on the plane too. But I'm more concerned about just the structural stability of having these 2 halves of the wings separate. I really wish I could tell you exactly what these thread count were and size. I do not know. They were just in my junk bin, so I apologize, guys. I can't really tell you, but look how much better that works. First try, no trouble at all. The only thing is we just got to shorten them a little bit. And we're going to do that right now. We'll go ahead and take this other side out, and then I'll pick it back up when I get those out, and I'll show you how to cut them down. Okay, guys, so we got those pulled out of the wing, and obviously some of the markings got wiped off because the plastic made contact. So I just took and measured with this tool. And basically the way you do it is you can stick this piece out here, and then you can run it in to where you can duplicate that measurement fairly certainly. Okay, something like that. And then I don't even care what that measurement is. I just use this to bump up against there and transpose the marks now that they've come out of the plastic. Okay, so you can see the mark there, and you can see the mark there, and you can see the mark there. And then just to confirm my whole thought, look at this. Look how much longer this is. Even after cutting it off, it's going to be a 1/4 inch longer. So that's a big deal. That's going to amount to something. So, first step, grab some eye protection. Second step, grab a cutting tool such as this. And what you're going to want to do is hang on to this using something like this. Now, grab the part that you're going to be cutting off, because then you don't have to worry about keeping the threads protected. Okay? And you're just going to adjust this down to where you can clamp it really tight. Okay? And simple enough process. And then cut right in front of your cut point. Now, as you can imagine, that screw is getting pretty hot now. So I can do this one of 2 ways. One way is to just break it off like this and just let it cool down for a minute. And then I know I'm crazy, but I'll keep those spare pieces, because I will occasionally need to make a set screw. So I'll keep little tips like that. Of course, the threads are going to be all screwed up now, so probably not worth it. Okay, so you guys get the idea. I'll pause it. We'll come right back when those are all cut. Okay, so we got those screws back in and it worked perfectly. Just grind down a little bit to smooth up the edges. And in looking at this wing, it makes a little bit more sense now that it's assembled. These screws, of course, would draw together. So those screws would actually be drawn together, which would replace this portion here. So basically, these screws, I believe, would be used for a different function, possibly to receive these as well, if you run it as a 1600 millimeter configuration. So everything is kind of together. It's nice and sturdy. So now it's just a matter of getting the control horns in. So I'm going to just run through the first one real quick, and then we'll be about out of time on this video series, or this video of the series. So like I did before, I'm going to use just a little bit of glue just to make my life easier. This mucilage. Here's the part number, guys. They have a small one as well, a small size if you prefer. But it works nice to put those on with glue, because then you can flip the wing upside down and work from whichever direction is easiest. And this is exactly the same configuration as they were on the rudder and the elevator. So it should be pretty straightforward stuff. Basically just lay them flat, line up your holes. If you got a little tack of glue on there, it helps a lot. And then you can throw the 4 screws through, and then you'll be doing the same on the flaps and all 4 ailerons. So number 1 bit, if you're using a drill, number 1 Phillips, and you'll screw them in from the side that the control horn's attached to, in my experience. And there you have it. So we'll just continue that for a bunch of screws, and we'll come right back when that's done, and we'll be on coming up on part 4. Check the link in the descriptions below. Buy your very own today. This plane is coming together great. It's going to be a good plane. You should go get your own for sure. Also check the links, help support our channel below that. And we should have a list of the build series if you're curious. If you guys are watching any of my newer series, like with the Airbus here, the Airbus A380, you can look in the description, and I have a whole list of all the builds, of all the build series videos to help break it down for you. So if you're looking for something in particular, particularly radio setup, that seems to be the question I get a lot. So, which we'll be doing that a little bit later in this series. It's just the same as my ASW28, which is down here, sitting on the floor. You can see the wings behind the Airbus. So, thanks a lot for watching, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Come back for part 4 very soon.